right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar, and today we're going to dive into what it means to actually be a fucking district manager, what it means to be an area manager, what it means to lead multiple locations instead of one. And oftentimes, the reason why you feel so burnt out as a DM, as an area, as a multi unit leader is that you're trying to run things like you have been running a single location. Oftentimes the mistake that a lot of companies make is that they promote the high producing individual to the leadership roles. Okay, and oftentimes these high producing individuals aren't necessarily wanting to go into a leadership role because they want to be a leader. It's because it's the next step in progression when it comes to their income, right? So that's what makes it tough and hard for a lot of individuals because they're trying to run the same play that they were running as an individual contributor. And at some of these locations, it may work, especially if it's a smaller team, where that individual contributor as a leader might be micromanaging and it looks like the entire team is actually creating results. But what's happening is that you have one individual that is carrying the entire team at that location, namely the manager, right? And a lot of times, this is what we call the selling manager. They're not producing salespeople, they're producing results, which, if you're looking on paper, right, if you're looking at your reports, you might be thinking this team is doing great, this location is doing great, right? They have some bumps when the leader's not there, but what you don't know is that the leader's constantly on their device or stopping in to ensure that they're producing when they're supposed to be off. Now, for you as an individual, you might be thinking, well, that's okay. I live by the location. Or that's okay. I mean, the team just needs that extra push. So I have to be the one to give them that extra push. Instead of, I'm training my people up so that they can perform when I'm not there. So I don't need to constantly be babysitting them. I don't need to constantly be micromanaging them, nagging them on production. They know what they need to do. They have a roadmap and they have a path forward, and they will do it for themselves because of the rewards that they will earn, that they will reap, right? We're in sales. We get bonuses, we get spiffs, we get commissions, right? That's why they're doing it. They're not doing it just for the hourly, just for the base pay, right? Some of you guys have draws, some of you guys hourly, some of you guys might be on a salary, okay? But that's what we need to talk about because once you go into a multi-unit role, whether it be area manager, district manager, okay? Once you're doing more than one location, okay, it becomes very difficult to do the same play. You can't be at multiple locations at once. You will run yourself ragged. You will be overworking yourself because you're not developing people. And then other people are going to start hating that work environment because you're constantly nagging, you're constantly berating them, you're constantly micromanaging what they're doing when they're doing what they're already supposed to be doing. And oftentimes, these individuals are afraid of promoting others that might perform better than they will or have the experience that they lack. And that's where we start to see a lot of cases of people being ran out of the business, people being, essentially harassed in the workplace. I've taken a lot of managers into my fold that became district managers that should have been a DM at other organizations, but they had somebody above them who was afraid of promoting that individual for two reasons. One, they're performing fucking fantastic. So that was their, golden child, their golden goose at that location. So they were afraid of losing that production from that location, from their territory. And two, they're afraid of being replaced because they think if they promote somebody who's factually better than them, fundamentally better, right? The way that they're looking at how they're training and developing other people, then they end up losing that individual to go somewhere else. They're afraid of being replaced. And you should never, as a leader, be afraid to be replaced. Your goal should be to train people up to replace you in the role that you're in right now. And the reason is once you're able to transfer those skills and actually be able to promote other people, your workload becomes so much easier because now you're able to delegate to other people. See, when I learned that and I started implementing that in my own districts, in my own territories, I could take a fucking vacation and not have to worry about performance. I didn't have, you know, tens of people reaching out to me like, hey, what do I do about this? What do I do about this? What do I do about this? They knew, hey, I can turn to this, or these are the individuals I need to turn to, right? Cool. And the better part is we were developing as a team. Everybody from the ground up was getting trained on learning and understanding the fundamentals that we do day in and day out so it becomes second nature. Because my motto has always been and will always will be, I want you to earn more by working less. As a leader, when you tell that to your team, what are they going to say? Are they going to tell you to your face, no, I want to fucking work harder and make less money? No. Okay. It piques their interest because it's like, okay, what are you going to teach me that's going to make this easier where I'm going to be working less and making more money? And when you start showing them those small little pivots that they'll do, that takes the stress off of what they're doing, how they're presenting, how they're positioning, how they're pitching and closing deals. And they start seeing like, oh shit, I'm making more, I'm able to sell more, but it feels like I'm working less. Then it becomes natural. Then it becomes super easy. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to focus on. That's the kind of stuff that you, as a leader, as an emerging leader, or whether you're a struggling leader trying to turn things around, need to understand. Micromanaging is out the window. That shit don't work in this world. Okay? Especially in a day and age. It didn't work back then when people didn't text as much, where it wasn't on social media as much. In this day and age, that is why you have such a fucking horrible return on investment on your employees. Okay? Your churn is off the fucking roof. If you do not have 70+% retention rate for your existing employees at that 12-month mark, right? Meaning that they've been with your organization for at least 12 months. And out of those people that have made it the year, right? Of the people that you currently have, when you look back a year, at least 70% of them have to have been with your organization for at least a year or more. If that is not you, and if you're in a retail environment, right? Whether it be wireless, AV, appliances, furniture, or a services business, right? Think insurance, think all the other stuff, loan officers, real estate, any other service environment, you have a problem. And the problem is you don't have a system to be able to train and facilitate growth in individuals, right? That is the reason why it is so important to break things down. Yes, you're going to give everybody an introductory training program. That is not going to teach them everything. That is not going to help them retain all the information that they're going to need to know. It's barely enough to get them through on the basics of what they need to do day in and day out. Because you're going to go over so much information and you're hoping that they're going to retain it. You're hoping that they're going to have enough practice to be able to implement all this. And that truly relies at the locations that they're going. Okay? Because if the leaders at that location, if the staff at that location are not implementing what they've learned in the training, are not helping them facilitate that learning by actually taking the wheel and doing something while the other individual is selling the product or selling the services or doing the presentation, right? So that they can learn the systems, they can learn the processes. If all they're doing is just shadowing and listening, and that individual that they're shadowing isn't breaking things down, isn't breaking concept down, right? Isn't letting the customer know like, hey, appreciate your patience. I have a new person with me that's, following, shadowing. So I'm just going to be explaining what we're doing through the process. That way they can understand, right? And so they don't get lost, and they're going to obviously may have questions for me, but don't worry, we're going to get you taken care of. You're in right hands. If they can't break it down in something like that, and all they're doing is just running the system and hoping that the individual, you watched me do it, so you figure it out. You've seen it get done. that doesn't mean shit. Okay? It's like even on heavy machinery. Just because you watch somebody do something, if you don't know what the fuck they did, how are you going to learn how to operate the heavy machinery? It's the exact same thing when it comes to sales. When it comes to those soft skills, you have to learn that. And we have to facilitate that learning for those individuals. And as leaders, we can't be doing that if we're trying to micromanage multiple areas, multiple stores, multiple locations, multiple teams. You do not have enough time. You do not have enough eyes to be able to do that. So you have to shift your mindset from, I need to control everything, to let me train them up. And if they can perform at least 60% as well as I can individually, then we're at a fucking great start, because there's multiples of them and there's only one of me. And that's the kind of mindset you have to have, because when you understand that your team is a force multiplier, you just have to develop that skill within them. It changes the game. That is why you guys see such a big difference in performance when you switch leaders. When you have an ineffective leader and you put somebody in who actually understands what they're doing and is training up their people, you start to see the performance just spike, and you might be like, what the fuck? Okay? I've been in areas where I've had less traffic and we're performing 3, 4, 5 times better than the previous leadership. And it's not because it was a change of staff. It was retaining the original staff, but focusing on the training, focusing on developing just the basic skill set that they were missing and fine-tuning that. And a matter of just a couple of months, the performance goes from being mediocre to, what the hell are you guys doing over there? What is that secret? It must be a spike in traffic. It's like, no, their traffic is down 10, 20% year over year. Oh shit. So they're closing more, making more sales with less traffic. That is the power of training. That is the power of developing your staff. That is the power as a leader of letting go and learning to delegate. And then once you set those expectations, understanding that you as a leader still need to follow up and inspect those expectations. And that's where oftentimes you might lose that, because I told you what to do and you left it at that. Okay, so are we doing this or are we not doing this? Because what are we doing? Communication at that level is super important, right? Set that expectation. Be clear about what we're doing, what expectations are, what goals to achieve, and have your team take ownership of what they're going to be doing. And when you micromanage and you're telling people, this is what you need to do, this is what you need, this is what we're missing, this is what has to happen. Cool. That's all stuff that you laid out. So the way they see it and the way they're going to take it, because it's human psychology. All right, cool. I'm going to try to bat 100. But you know what? I only hit 3. Right? Well, I told you to do this. Cool. You told me how to do it, or you told me what to do, okay? What the results needed to be, but I didn't know how to get those results. And when we're micromanaging, that level of communication is not there, because your team doesn't have the respect and you don't have the respect for your team. And they understand that. So they don't want to communicate with you. They don't want to be on that end of being berated at because, hey, I just have a simple question about this because I need to bounce an idea off, and you want to make them feel stupid because you yourself may not fucking know. Okay? As a leader, it's okay to say, you know what? I don't know how to do this, but let me find the answer. It's the same fucking thing that we teach our salespeople. You still got to do that at the leadership level. If you don't fucking know, it's okay to say, you know what? I don't know, but let me find out for you. Let me see what I can do about this. That's what you got to learn how to do. It doesn't mean you have the answers. It means that you become a resource for your team. Because my position as a DM, as a director, doesn't exist if my team doesn't perform. So I need to be heavily invested in making sure that my team is trained up, that they have the right skills, that they're learning the skills. Because I know that if I have a veteran that's been there in the industry or in the organization for 3-5 years, their performance is going to be vastly different than a person who joined us and is maybe 2-3 months in. And as a leader, whether you just recently got promoted or whether you're trying to turn things around for yourself because you're like, shit, my numbers are in the fucking hole and I don't know how to bring up the performance. So I'm constantly having fire drills. Guys, understand that when everything becomes a fucking emergency, when everything fucking becomes important as a KPI, nothing becomes fucking important. You have to understand what a keystone habit is and focus on it. And focusing on training and development becomes so much easier when you understand that, because then you can focus on one thing and everything else will wrap around it. And it becomes an extension of that one focus. For me, my keystone habit that I've always instilled in my teams is that I want you to perform. And how we do that is I want you to work less and make more money. And when they understand that concept, when they hear it, they're like, the fuck? You want me to work less but make more? Like, how do I do that? Because who doesn't want to work less and make more money? Who doesn't want to be less stressed and still make more money? And when you do that, your team becomes open to, okay, what do I need to do? They start to buy in, because then they sound ridiculous saying the opposite when they say, no, I don't want to work less. I want to work more and make less money. Okay? So you got to learn how to use that to be able to help develop your people. Yes, it takes time and investment in time and energy to train up your people, but the payoff in retention of your employees and improved sales performance, there is nothing better in the world. And your team will be thankful and you will have far more opportunities available to you. So guys, grab the template that's in the description. Don't miss out. Any questions, reach out directly, right? Follow me on my socials. Don't forget, hit that like and follow button on this video. Thanks for watching. This has been another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast, and I'll catch you on the next one.